Ana koutou katoa. Thank you.
Kia ora. Now, we've just checked with Member Coney, and we were looking at whether the Waitakere Rangers Local Board wanted to speak at the item or if they wanted to speak at local board. So you'd rather speak after Saffron, Sandra? Cool. Okay. So I now welcome Saffron on behalf of the Manukau Harbour Forum. And the time is yours, Saffron.
Kia ora. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the chance to speak. First of all, I want to say congratulations on such a long and dedicated career in local body politics, Penny. And thank you so much for all you do for the community and the environment, and especially for your work in the environment space this term. And I want to say thank you to the committee as well, the governing body in general, for really stepping up in some really, really difficult times. But Penny, it's down to your leadership, and I think you've really done some amazing work. So thank you so much, and look forward to seeing what you get up to next. Thanks so much for having us. We are speaking in the public forum / local board spot today, and I think that that's quite relevant, I suppose, to what we're talking about, which is the governance review for the Manukau Harbour Forum. The Manukau Harbour Forum was founded after the amalgamation of the Super City, in recognition of the deteriorating state of the harbour and a big track record of abuse and neglect and very old-fashioned practices. For whatever people might think about the Super City, the opportunity for the Manukau Harbour under the Super City arrangement is great, and it carries responsibility as well. We had practices of using our tributaries basically as drains. We had our sewage ponds in the harbour. We've had abattoirs on the harbour and various other travesties. Everything that happens on the harbour and in the catchment has an effect. So the Super City presents as an opportunity to address the imbalance of protection efforts on Auckland's harbours and remedy and restore the health of the Manukau Harbour. In the past, we've had several different governing authorities, and we've never had this opportunity before. Almost half of the local boards of the Super City, that's 9 of them, have significant areas of the catchments on the harbour, with still having tributaries that originate, for example, in Howick and end up in the Manukau Harbour. It is often referred to as the forgotten harbour. So in this sense, it is very much, at the least, a sub-regional issue. But the variation and the locality of each of the activities that cumulatively have an effect on the harbour, they are by their nature local. Over this term, the Manukau Harbour Forum has focused on commonalities consistent with our terms of reference, and we've worked collegially. The interest and commitment from Councillor Bartley has been greatly appreciative and really enriched our understanding, but our ability to respond to the new information that she brings is challenged obviously by our status or lack of status, the resourcing, and also even the meeting frequency. At this point, I'd also like to thank Deputy Mayor Bill Cashmore for your attendance and interest in the symposium, and also you, Mayor Goff, for coming along to our community outreach at Onehunga Festival. Currently, we rely on local board services staff to take on Manukau Harbour Forum functions additional to their own workload. And we are very fortunate that we have had staff put up their hand since the formation of the group. And this term we have been really blessed, for lack of a better word, but with the support from Glenn Boyd, Relationship Manager for the 3 West local boards. Glenn's commitment and passion for the harbour has really shown, and I think strengthened what we've been able to deliver. And that support from Brenda Rayleigh, as well as some support from Environmental Services with some staff, and they manage our budget. But our budget is about $70,000 a year. And we get that by going cap in hand to each of the local boards and asking for money. And each of the boards does contribute, there is buy-in, but obviously you can understand that there's a limited amount of what we can, what we can achieve with that budget. Over the years, we have had success with advocacy for the hydrodynamic model. We have built a good comms plan. We've had newsletters and video and a web presence. We have, as I've mentioned, we've participated in community outreach. We've increased our involvement in Sea Week. We've held symposiums, and more recently, we've been investing in young people with our Young Leaders program. One of the most exciting things to come out of that is a small but dedicated group of South Auckland youth environmentalists, growing a demographic which is very unrepresented in the environment space. Many of the Pacific diaspora and many who are affected disproportionately by climate change. So, bringing to the governance review, which you all have here, it was undertaken by Dr. Nigel Bradley from EnviroStrat, and he's very experienced. He's done reviews on ECAN, the Hauriki Gulf. He really knows his stuff. There's a whole lot of other reviews that he's done. The key finding was that everybody wanted the forum to continue, but everybody wanted the forum to be properly recognised, properly resourced, as well as have some councillor involvement. So at our final meeting, which we held specifically to receive this report, we have endorsed all of the recommendations, and in particular, the first one that we would like you to action today when you see this report is to appoint 2 of your wonderful selves to be part of our forum and to adjust our terms of reference in accordance. One of those members is invited to co-chair the forum with the local board members, and there's a whole lot of other very, very important recommendations as well. One of them in particular is developing a strategy to engage with mana whenua, and that is a desire that the forum wants, and it's also come from the community. So I guess I'll just finish by saying now it's time. We've been through a lot of work. The governance review is a culmination of this project of raising the status of the Manukau Harbour within this council. It's an opportunity, it's a challenge, and it's a responsibility. Now is the time to take this responsibility for the harbour, respond to the challenge, take the opportunity to fulfil our governance responsibility to work for the health and well-being of our taonga, the Manukau Harbour.
That's pretty clear, Saffron. I'll go to Bill in a moment. We talked yesterday prior to the meeting about what the next steps might be, and we've got a couple of recommendations here so that we can move this along, so to speak. I'll go to Councillor Cashmore first, Deputy Mayor.
I think they just answered my questions up there, Madam Chair. Just a quick reference to you, Saffron. We did speak about this at the symposium. Do you see the Manukau Harbour Forum and the Hauriki Gulf Forum coming under one sort of body of council with joint administration, and perhaps even with Kaipara going forward?
At this stage, I wouldn't recommend that. The reviewers have actually come up with a whole lot of... the impression from the reviewers that we got is actually that the Manukau Harbour Forum functions in many ways kind of better, I hate to say, than the Hauraki Forum. The Hauraki Golf Forum is quite a different beast, and it's, you know, while there's a lot of aspects or characteristics of that we might aspire to, for example, bringing together stakeholders in the ways that they do, I think that there's the Manukau Harbour needs some independence, and it needs to, instead of just being enveloped, I think there's a risk also, you sort of bring it all under one umbrella, then the Manukau doesn't get the attention that it really needs. So anyway, at this stage, I would say no.
Could I comment? I'm the deputy chair. The Hauraki Golf Forum's budget now is around $360,000 a year. I checked that this morning, and council provides around about half, perhaps a little less than half. It obviously iwi representation and other funds help with that, but the Manukau Harbour, with only $70,000, we need other resources, but the long run object is that in the Manukau, the Kaipara, which is now getting I think $12 million from the government, the Manukau should have similar status to the Kaipara and the Hauraki Golf. They're all big bodies of water, but we need resources. We need people. We have been given examples in the report, which is a very easy read. I know you people have huge amounts of reading, but it's a very easy read with clear recommendations. And one of the most interesting things is where it compares with 7 other bodies, 3 of which deal with harbours, and all the 7 other bodies have staff resourcing. The Manukau Harbour Forum is the only one that doesn't. So there's very interesting comparisons there. So those are the key things we want to meet more regularly and have a committed resource. Even the Tamaki Estuary, which is a smaller body, they have, and there's a whole appendix in the report, a 2-page appendix, which shows how the Tamaki Estuary has done now 16 different activities because they have a paid person, only 8 or 10 hours a week, but he has made a huge difference to the effectiveness of that body. So we want similar structures to make us much more effective.
Okay, I think that's clear, and hopefully the recommendations pick up that point that it's physically got somewhere to go. I'm happy to move the recommendations. Councillor Cooper is happy to second with our huge coastline along the Manukau. Any other questions? No? Jo.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. I just want to thank you, Saffron and David, for coming to the committee and presenting on the governance review. I think you're quite right in that the Manukau Harbour is the forgotten harbour. And we look at the water quality rate, and 80% of that is spent on the Western Isthmus. So this is a good start to get some awareness and, you know, get some aroha for the Manukau. So I commend you both for being here today, and I think it is a good step that we take this to the workshop and really get into the recommendations from what's his name? Nigel. That carried it out. Yeah. He's had some really good recommendations, so looking forward to that. That's all I want to say.
Awesome.
And actually, I wanted to put my name forward as one of the councillors so that I can officially be there, because I just go there, but I'm not official. So I'm really keen to continue.
Would you like to, I think you should move this, and Councillor Cooper will second.
I was, but Councillor Cooper put her hand up before me. And I can't put my hand up because it's injured.
Oh,
fixing
I know.
somebody's side.
We noted an election hammering injury, I think.
Yes.
Yep, it looked bad. Councillor Cooper.
I think Councillor Bartley's words are very wise.
we get a lot of people saying, what are we doing about the Manukau? And we are doing quite a few of our environmental water quality targeted rate. Money is going there in projects in the Manukau, but it really needs to beef up. We have the Waitemata Harbour Forum, we've got the Kaipara Uri and working with the Kaipara Moana, with government. We really need to step it up in the Manukau. You know, we have 3 beautiful harbours. They can be more beautiful. We have trashed them somewhat just with the way we've lived and the way we've developed, and we need to change that. So I absolutely endorse this work. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, now we've got a couple of other questions. Councillor Fletcher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just following on from Councillor Cooper, I strongly support the work that you've been doing. It was great work to initiate on amalgamation. I guess from my perspective, it should have exactly the same status. But the problem with the status is with the Hauraki Gulf Forum and the initiatives that are there, they have never had the funding from central government that they should have had. So whilst I totally endorse what you're trying to do, and that's giving equal status, and as a little girl who grew up on the shores of the Manukau Harbour, I feel very strongly about this. However, I would not want us to think that it is solely the domain of local government. This is very squarely the area that central government should be working in collaboration and funding in collaboration with us. So thank you very much for the work that you've done in this term and the advocacy. It's really great to see it coming before us today, but I just wouldn't like us to lose sight of the fact that we do need to put more pressure on central government to fund some of this work.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I
Saffron.
respond? Thank you very much. Thank you so much for the support from this committee. And I do agree that central government needs to come to the party a bit more. In terms of our council's responsibility, though, we have particular responsibility because obviously we're the local governing body. But also one of the major issues for the harbour is actually sedimentation, which is directly related. It's directly because of land use and land use practices, and those are the domain of the council. So yes, we need to have equal status. But more than that, we just need to be recognised. It needs to not be a forgotten harbour. We're not the same as the Hauraki Gulf. We're not the same as the Kaipara. We have a wonderful catchment. It is effectively a big and beautiful estuary. It used to be called Manukoko, and I think that referred to the noise, the absolute deafening noise of the bird life that used to be on the Manukau. It is a catchment that used to be teeming with life, and it's still pretty well alive. But imagine what it was like. So we've got a lot of work to do, and we need resourcing. The report shows we need resourcing in-house for our own comms, internal comms, support for the forum ourselves, a networker, a champion within the organisation. But we also need somebody a little bit like a community broker that will actually help to bring the groups together as well. So thank you again for your attention and for your support for the Manukau Harbour Forum, and I do hope that you endorse the recommendations from the report.
Awesome. Kia ora and thank you, Saffron. And David, I'll put the recommendations. They've been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you both.
Thank you.
And our final presentation for the moment is from Sandra Coney on behalf of the Waitakere Rangers Local Board. And I think, Sandra, you're speaking to item 9 and 13, the film protocol and the proposed changes to the septic tank pump out.
Madam Chair, I'm just speaking to the film protocol.
All right. And then Saffron's going to do pump out. Okay. Well, why don't you just stay there, Saffron? That's easier. Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, committee. The Waitakere Rangers Local Board is here in support of the Auckland Film Protocol. Our board has a huge amount of filming in its area. We are the second largest area. The local board area that has the most filming is the Waitemata Local Board. but ours was second. And for instance, in the last 6 months, we had 40 permits were issued for filming in the Waitakere Ranges local board area. And obviously people are particularly attracted by the natural beauty of the Waitakere Ranges. One of the reasons that we are quite enthusiastic about supporting filming in our area is because we have the Waitakere Ranges Heritage Area Act over us, which limits certain activities and developments. And filming, when properly conducted, is a sort of perfect fit with our area because if it's done well, it leaves no footprint. And in fact, a lot of the filming relies on the very natural beauty that we're trying to protect through the Act. That said, there has to be a balance between any inconvenience to local communities and also in particular, and I'll just refer to that again later, is the impact on the native wildlife. With the protocol, the local board made a submission and generally what we requested was more recognition of the Heritage Area Act in the protocol and more recognition of the need to protect the environment and particular wildlife. So the sort of thing that we're dealing with, just to give you an example, is that because of the huge efforts groups like Forest and Bird have made in the Waitakere Ranges to control predators, we actually have a burgeoning of seabirds and native birds in our area. And just recently, the local board funded REMU to do a study of seabirds along our coast. So that's the west coast and also the Manukau Harbour coast. And they were able to identify multiple places where birds were not known before, but which are now known. It's particularly things like grey-faced petrels. So these are ground burrowing and nesting birds. We also have a return of dotterels onto our beaches, sometimes turning up in the most inconvenient areas, like in the middle of an off-leash dog area. But they are coming back, and we think that's wonderful and a really great result of all the community and activity by the council to control predators. But obviously, when people are wanting to film in the same areas, that can create conflicts if it's not well managed. So I'm just going to finish up by saying that one of the things that the board has been pushing for is an environmental framework for filming. And we have got one which was done at Te Hinga for the dotterels at Te Hinga. At that stage, it was the only place that had dotterels. We've now got dotterels at North Piha. We've now got dotterels at Kerikeri. So, and that just gives a guidance. So you can pick it up off a shelf and you know exactly as a filmmaker what you can and can't do at different times of the year. So it's things like when a vehicle goes on the beach and we try to limit that, they can't go more than 5 k's an hour. Somebody has to walk in front of them and stop the vehicle if there's any sign of a bird on the shoreline. So in the next term, if I'm there, and in any case, I hope that the local board will work with Screen Auckland for that kind of environmental framework for the whole of our local board area. But otherwise, when we made the comments to Screen Auckland about needing to strengthen that part of the report, we were very pleased to see that they took all that on board, and the revised film protocol that you've got in front of you today did come to the local board, and we were generally pretty happy that it had the right balance between the needs of to encourage and support filming, but also to protect, to make sure that local people are not inconvenienced, but also to protect our wildlife. As I said, there's a bit more work to be done in that direction, but I think that sets the right sort of overall framework for filming in our area. So that was all I wanted to say, Madam Chair.
Should we just see if there are any questions on that? I think it's pretty clear. I guess just, and this will come up in the item, Sandra, there is a little bit of concern, I think, from the film industry, and what I'm going to be suggesting in the item, I just want to say this in case you're not there, because the item will be later on this afternoon, is that I think we just need a little bit more talking between Screen Auckland, the industry, and local boards like Waitakere, who are, taking quite rightly a very clear stance to protect the environment, because I think some of the work in the protocol or some of the concerns around the protocol may just be a misunderstanding or misinterpreting of what's required. So I think we just need a bit more talking and discussion to make sure that people are clear on what we're trying to achieve. So that may be discussed later on this afternoon.
I would see if we're developing the environmental framework, that would absolutely need to go out to the community. I have met with some of the people who support filming and economically benefit from filmmaking out on the West Coast, and so I'm not particularly aware of the issues that you're talking about as being problems. I mean, generally, all of I can only think of in the time I've been approving filming, because it comes to me, filming applications in Waitakere, which I've been doing now for 6 years. I think we've only said no twice, and that was about filming alcohol ads in association with water sports, which is not something that the board supports, but otherwise, you know, everybody has to work within a framework.
Yeah.
And we only get 2 days to approve these applications, and that's why a framework would help everybody, I think, to know exactly where everybody stands and what we're trying to do.
Through the chair, if I might just, I just want to acknowledge Sandra for the work that she does as well. Sandra's taken on that responsibility for the local board, and as you know, she gets 48 hours to turn around applications, which are often really, really thick, come, you know, at least 2 a day kind of thing, isn't it? It's like 4 or 5 every couple of days. And so it's a huge workload on top of all of your other work. So just sort of wanted to acknowledge that. I don't know what we can do about that to better support that kind of work. But.
Okay, thank you for that. I think we'll just deal with these separately. So, we've got it wound up into one recommendation. We'll just leave it. We'll leave the recommendation. We'll deal with it once we've heard from Saffron, from one extreme to the other, from the glamour of film to the reality of the septic tank pump out project. Saffron.
Kia ora. So this is obviously relevant to what I was talking about before too, water quality. So our recommendations were that we continue on with a status quo septic tank pump out scheme. I would have liked to speak to the item, but I have a feeling it's not going to be till 2:30 or something, and I'll need to pick up my children. So we just note that in the report, the status quo option wasn't actually recommended. But when we went out for consultation with the community, what we were talking about was retaining the scheme or not retaining the scheme. So the community did not have an understanding that there was going to be a significant change to the scheme, or any idea that there was proposed to be higher costs associated with the scheme. We note that Waitakere City Council in the 90s introduced the septic tank pump out scheme in response to really declining water quality. So too many accidents, and I just want to cast your minds to what happened in Takapuna recently when the water quality targeted rate was being used over there to clean up the sewage systems, and when we found that one house was the wastewater was directly connected to the stormwater outlet, it had a catastrophic effect on water quality in that area. So I think it's a good check, because the impact of one malfunctioning septic system, or one that is not emptied in time, the impact locally is really, really huge, and it needs to be considered along the same criteria as upgrades to reticulated sewage systems. There's a water quality issue here, and it's a public good. And people in our area that have on-site wastewater systems are still paying the same water quality targeted rate, yet not receiving that same local benefit. So that's the main thing for us. The Waitakere Ranges Heritage Area Act also refers to, has environmental protection mechanisms which must be regarded by the local governing body on all of these kinds of things. And it also mentions the coasts, but it also mentions the protection of the rural character of the coasts. Our communities will stay small, which means the economies of scale of investing in reticulated sewage in those communities, or let alone whether they're suitable at all, it won't happen. So we still need to recognise the public good and the extreme cost should there be such an accident if people don't empty on time. So I just finish. I think it's a reputational risk for council if we change the system so much when our original consultation was actually just talking to the community about whether or not they wanted to retain the system or not. We already have, the council has really strong community buy-in for the system, for the septic tank pump out scheme. I support increased monitoring. We need to have that, but it needs to be resourced from the water quality targeted rate, like the upgrades of our reticulated sewage system. Thank you.
That's really clear. Questions? Councillor, Mr Deputy Mayor.
The obvious question coming from the rural councillor, Saffron, is why should your area be any different to mine? We pay for our own clean out every 3 years. We pay for our own engineering report on every rural septic tank. So why is your area different? And why should you get special treatment?
Thank you. Well, the Waitakere Ranges community voted to keep the septic tank pump out. We never wanted to leave the scheme in the first place. It's recognising the public good that it is. I mean, I guess my answer to that would be I would support your area getting a subsidy on the increased monitoring and compliance that will be required under the new water quality regime as well. So it's not that we are asking for Waitakere Ranges to be subsidised only, but it's recognising that the increased costs associated with making sure that our, with our new focus on protection of our waterways, there's an increased cost there, which I think it's a good that everybody enjoys, and people in reticulated areas are subsidised. Everybody in rural areas pays the water quality environment targeted rate. That upgrades a reticulated sewage area, but it doesn't upgrade people that have it on site. So it's really just about equity in many ways.
Okay. The key thing is we just needed to hear the view of the local board. We'll have the debate when we come to the item, or we'll have the discussion when we come to the item, but it will actually be debated post-consultation as part of the annual plan. Okay.
So just to clarify, the Safe Networks program, which is related to the Safe Swim project, is all paid for from the water quality targeted rate, and it is work that is going out and finding faults and fixing problems in our reticulated sewage system in those areas. And that's what I'm referring to as a subsidy, I suppose. But what I'm talking about is the water quality targeted rate getting, in action out in our environment, in our communities, and people with their own systems at home not benefiting by that despite paying the same targeted rate.
Okay, points made. I'm happy to move the recommendation to thank Saffron and Sandra for the reports. I've taken notes of the discussion, so to make sure they're reflected when we get to the debate. Seconded Councillor Cooper. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried.